As you know, my name is Taylor Gonzaga and I am the artistic director and founder of Opera Cecilia. I wanted to create something completely new and create a completely new community, and it is something that I'm finding to be so personally artistically fulfilling for me. So thank you for joining me on the journey of the beginning stages of me kind of doing what I've always dreamed to do. So this is really awesome. I bet you're wondering who this is. So this is my firstborn son. Yeah, he's really yawny because I kind of woke him up from a nap. But this is Zuzu. He's named after the little girl actually in It's a Wonderful Life, Zuzu's Petals, if anyone knows that reference. And he is a rescue baby. He's actually only 3 years old. He actually looks like he's older because he started whiting out really early, like basically right after we got him, even when he was a little puppy. So I think it's just something genetically, you know, that ran in your little doggy family maybe. Zuzu and I just wanted to present a little bit of a content caution for this video. We will be going over AURORA's murder song 54321, which was a highly requested video among AURORA fans when I did my Cure For Me video. So I decided that it would be a great next video to do in our Artistic Director Reacts series here at the OC YouTube. But it does have some heavy subject matter in the song, and we'll be kind of fleshing out and discussing some of the more heavy subject matter so that you knew of that beforehand, because your mental health is more important than my view count on this video. I would just like to say that. So if any of that stuff is sensitive or you feel like triggering for you in any way whatsoever, feel free to either only view portions of this video or not view any of it at all, and it does not hurt my feelings. So I'm gonna put him back in his bed because he really wants to just, look how yawny he is. He really wants to just sleep. I did some nerdy research on this one for y'all, so I think you're really gonna enjoy it. So I will be right back. All right, we are back. So I just wanted to start with some kind of like fun background research that I did on this piece, and her very first album this piece sort of reflects the mood of that entire first album. I think it's the album All My Demons Greeting Me as a Friend. I think that's what it's called off the top of my head. It is an absolutely incredible body of work if you haven't checked out the entire album, or if you're new to AURORA herself, you should definitely check her out. She's all over YouTube. So this song was called Murder Song 54321, and it was performed at the Nobel Peace Prize concert. That's the live performance that I got the most requests for, so that's the one we're gonna watch today. And there are a couple different interpretations of what this piece could actually be about, but AURORA's kind of famous for being a little bit ambiguous about what her songs, about the subject matter or the inspiration behind her songs, because she likes to leave it up to her fans' interpretations, which I think is really cool. It kind of allows people to ingest the music in the way that they need to, or in the way that means the most to them at that particular point in time. So when I was doing some background research for this video, what was really cool is I found a lot of different interpretations on a lot of like fandom forums that I'm going to kind of talk about a little bit. And then I found some like official articles and interviews of hers that gave a little bit more of a concrete picture of some of the songs and overall albums inspirations. I'm super nerdy about music literature and music history, and I am super nerdy about the expression and artistic influences that go into some of these incredibly impactful pieces of music. So I'm super excited to flesh all of that out with you today, and I hope you enjoy going on the nerdy journey with me. First of all, I found this Billboard article, and there was a couple quotes from it that I wanted to show you all that kind of set you up for the mood or the atmosphere of this song if you haven't already heard it. I know I have a lot of AURORA fans coming at this video since I had already done a video for AURORA as one of my first ones, Cure For Me. And you all, AURORA fans, are so fun, so intelligent, and so intellectual. You all have been so fun to engage with in the comments and so gracious and kind. So thank you so much for all of the support. So this video is specifically dedicated to you. And this Billboard article quote that I found was very interesting. So it says, her songs are eerie fairy tales that pulse with electronic beats. And she doesn't so much sing them as appear possessed by them. During live performances, her fingers contort and her eyes pop. Frequently, she falls into a trance. She is quoted as saying, "My body is quite tiny, but a lot of the emotions I feel are pretty explosive. They have to come out." And I just think that describes her performance style so well. Like I said in my Cure For Me video, Aurora is definitely a mover on stage. But she's not just a mover, she is a full body experience mover. She's not just gesticulating, she is literally allowing the music to possess her, as that quote insinuates. And I love the fact that they described her songs as eerie fairy tales, because they do have a very fantastical quality to them. And what I think one of the things Aurora is the most amazing at in her career is creating kind of this ethereal world that we all get to be a part of. And it's maybe like a fantasy or fantastical world in some ways, but it points to greater truths. And it kind of reminds me of what people get from like ancient scriptural texts like the Bible, or what people get from like Greek mythology. It's these really, really, really deeply rooted truths that are often rooted in metaphorical or mythological story. Aurora still uses writing as therapy, according to this article, and to help her face fears. And then it said, Murder Song 54321 is written from the victim's perspective. And some of the lyrics are, "He holds the gun against my head, I close my eyes, then bang, I'm dead." And so it is literally from the perspective of a victim, if you interpret it in a literal sense, of the victim kind of being a part of a mercy killing, or the perpetrator is complicit in a mercy killing on some level. Or some people have actually interpreted this on some of the fandom threads as an extremely jealous or abusive relationship, the kind of dynamic of like the person would rather kill that person than imagine them with anyone else. And some people have interpreted this song as having a completely metaphorical meaning as well, talking about her kind of like being a victim to like the extreme things that are happening in the world, and all of us being kind of victims to that, and the level of vulnerability that comes with that. So there's a lot of different angles that you can interpret the song from. For me, actually, when I first heard this song, is this idea of taking care of our natural environment, and how oftentimes guns or like these man-made things are getting in the way of these really delicate, beautiful ecosystems in our natural world, and how vulnerable that is, and that Aurora could potentially be speaking from nature or those delicate ecosystems perspective. So that's just kind of like what I gleaned from it, but that was based off of my thought processes at the time and the emotions I was feeling at the time. But I think that's what's so beautiful about her music, is the fact that you could take it in so many different directions, and she as the artist allows you to do that. Another thing that I thought was very interesting from this Billboard article is that she was quoted as, "I'm just training myself to survive in this world," she says. "If you try to protect yourself from pain, it becomes a stone in your heart." She frowns, a V forming between her eyebrows. "But the more you learn to face things, the more likely that stone can become a pearl." And I think she's talking about embracing vulnerability and not numbing yourself to the rest of the world and the cruelties of the world, but instead embracing and allowing your emotions to exist, even in all of their complexities, and just accepting yourself for who you are or where you're at any given moment, so that you can fully live and turn what could have become a heart of stone, or a heart that was numb to all of these emotions, into pearls. Her art is literally her pearls. That's at least how I kind of like to think of that quote. That the fandom mentioned is that it is about a tragic love story, an extremely tragic one, and the saddest thing is that he really loves her. So it seems like Aurora kind of wants us to see the perspective of the perpetrator as well, and the fact that like maybe this was very, very misguided love, but it could still be the fact that he does love her. And so it's like this very, very complicated mix of perspectives in this piece. You can definitely tell that Aurora takes a lot of inspiration from classical music, and she's been quoted as doing that, which is, I think, why I connect with her pretty deeply as well, because you can see that symbolism and you can see that musical nuance and complexity even in her contemporary music and music videos, and the way that she structures her albums and the subject matter that she writes and sings about. Now we are going to start the video, and I'll make some vocal observations and some interpretation-based observations as well.
Five, four, three, two, one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He holds the gun against my head. I close my eyes and bang, I am dead.
Okay, before we get into these beautiful vocal harmonies done by the backing vocalist, and I'll talk about him in a minute, the beginning of this song immediately sets an atmosphere. Like, you immediately feel like you're into Aurora's world. And part of that has to do with the fact that not only is she vocally committed to creating that atmosphere, but you can immediately see it in her face. It didn't zero in on her during the intro, but I'm sure she even started that mood before she even began singing. But the wideness of her eyes and this ability of her, she's almost like tracking a picture or like a series of events, like a silent film or a musical film that's happening before her or in front of her eyes. You can tell that she sees a very clear picture. It's almost as if she hasn't disengaged with the audience. She really wants, there's a level of wanting to let the audience in on her world, but she also is seeing past the audience in the sense that she's seeing her own image or her own tapestry kind of unfold before her. This is something I was actually told to do in a masterclass when I was singing art song at one point, is when you are singing, imagine that it's visual art and it's right in front of you, and you imagine that you're painting a picture on a canvas. And I think she does such a wonderful job of painting that picture, and you can see it in her eyes that she clearly sees an image in front of her. This is a really, really wonderful way of being able to cause your voice to create the paint strokes and the colors that you want, if we're continuing with that metaphor. So pay close attention to her facial expressions during this piece.
I know he knows that he's killing me for mercy, and here I go. Oh, 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 oh.
Okay, so, man, I'm already starting to... why am I already getting emotional? The song has just started. I forgot how visceral of an emotional reaction this song provokes in most people. I've seen other people reacting to this piece that have had very emotional reactions to it as well. That's very real. The first time I heard the song, I definitely cried. I think it still gets me every time I hear it, and I think the only reason that it gets me like maybe slightly less is because I know what's coming at this point. But I just wanted to say something. Like, there's this comment right below this video that says the guitarist sounds as if he was born to sing alongside her. Their voices pair so well, and I completely agree with that statement. He was a wonderful compliment to her, and the reason why is because there's kind of like a doe or fawn or like fae like mystical quality to Aurora's voice that provides a delicacy to it. So to have a richer, deeper timbred voice underneath it, it really, really complements what she's doing. And it's that ability to kind of blend those two very, very different tonal structures together to create those really, really deliciously rich and interesting harmonies, and it's also extremely expressive. His name is Martin, is it Martin Skalnies or Martin Skalnies? Skalnies? I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. It is a beautiful name, and I just feel like I'm butchering it. I hope I'm not, but if I am, I'm so sorry. But he is absolutely wonderful. I heard that he actually went on to have a solo career himself, so I'm gonna have to check out some of his music at some point. But wow, they go really, really well together vocally. Hello everyone, Messy Taylor, who is just taking 2 dogs out and is doing post-editing on videos at the same time here, but I just wanted to add in an extra detail about this part of the song that I did not catch or did not mention in the previous video that I recorded. And it was that there's a reason, I think there's an intentional reason, at least this is my theory of why Aurora chose a male backing vocalist. And it's not just because it makes the harmonies and the tones balance out really well, which is true, but I actually think it has to do with the story that she's trying to tell as well. The fact that the perpetrator is male, he obviously has very obvious he, him pronouns during the course of the song, and that the backing vocalist is actually supposed to be the secondary perspective here and is supposed to be the perpetrator dramatically. Which I find very interesting that he would be a part of the song as well. In addition to that, what's very interesting, if you listen to the way that he sings the portion where she's like, "But here I go, go," he has that response to her. At first I thought it was just a backing vocal where he was just echoing her, because that's a very, very typical backing vocal format for a lot of contemporary music. But then when I was thinking about it, I was like, what if he's responding to her? What if that's his response? What if he's telling her to go? What if he's saying go, yes, go, as kind of like a response to her saying, "But here I go." And I was just thinking about that. And then I listened to the song again and I was just like, there's no way that I can't mention that somehow in this video. So, let me know if you have the same opinion or not in the comments, but I just found that that little discovery or that theory that popped up in my head sort of interesting. Anyway, back to the main video. The other thing I wanted to point out real quick before we keep going, this song has a very, very simple format, and I think that that's highly emotionally effective in this instance. That part that she keeps repeating in the chorus, "And here I go, oh, oh, oh," that part, that's very, very vulnerable, and kind of a lot of times, you see this in classical music as well. A lot of times when we have coloratura lines, and what I mean by coloratura are basically vocal runs or vocalizations that are often on vowels and are not, they don't include actual words. They're meant to kind of exclaim out loud or mimic, whether it be like a burst of excitement, or in this case, probably a cry of anguish, or a strong emotional reaction from the story that they're trying to tell or the character they're trying to portray. And as somebody who sings a lot of repertoire in the classical genre that has a lot of these vocalizations to it, you can see it really prevalently in contemporary music, and Aurora uses it brilliantly here to convey vulnerability. And notice how her movements are getting more erratic and scared as it goes on, because she's leaning into the vulnerability of someone that would be a victim in the situation. It's just incredible how she continues to build that up and draw the audience in to the story that she's trying to tell.
And he holds my body in his arms. He didn't mean to do no harm, and he holds me tight. Oh, he did it all to spare me from the awful things in life that comes, and he cries and cries.
So vocally, what happened at the end of that, and he cries and cries. Notice how I added extra air when I sang that? That's exactly what Aurora just did. She added a little bit of extra air at the end of that phrase, which allows her to convey that feeling of helplessness and vulnerability. Whenever we let a little bit of air escape in our tone, it automatically, emotionally to us, elicits a more vulnerable character, versus when we add a little bit more oomph or growl into our tone. It insinuates strength. And that, I think, is at a very animalistic, visceral level for us. We as creatures, as animals ourselves, we hear different sounds, and those sounds indicate or communicate different things to us. And that is a very, very animalistic and very instinctual thing in us that really comes out in our music and in our art. The fact that Aurora is not afraid to sing songs with subject matter like this is because she's kind of making the point throughout her career that your emotions are morally neutral. Anger, sadness, anguish, all of these emotions that we assign such negative terminology to in our society, you can feel them. Like, it's not bad or sinful or anything to feel those emotions. Like, obviously don't do something bad, as it's the actions that can create less moral neutrality, I guess. But she's really not afraid to go there, and it can provide really a strong catharsis to her audience members and to her fans when she does. And it's almost as if she's bearing the world on her shoulders herself and allowing you to feel those emotions and to have a safe space to do that by not being afraid to go to kind of the margins of what we allow ourselves to feel or deem socially acceptable to feel, at least in Western society. So I love what she's doing. It's just, there's so many different layers to it, even though it's such a simple song in format, if you were to just look at the formatting.
I know he knows that he's killing me for mercy, and here I go. Oh, 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 and here I go. Oh, oh.
So that was a perfect example of how you can use head voice to come to a very strong climax in a song. That was probably the emotionally climactic moment. And because she's telling her story so clearly, it was like, I can see her literally looking at the guy like this. This makes me emotional just talking about it. Looking at the guy like about to shoot her. Like, that's crazy. Like, that's crazy that it's like so clear as to what she's actually talking about. And it's heartbreaking because she's really, really embodying the victim in this. It's almost like, to me, what it kind of embodied was like a helpless animal that was just about to be shot by a hunter or something like that. And it elicits a level of empathy that from us that allows us to embrace our own humanity fully and even see the dark sides of humanity and try to make them light again, just because we're realizing what that victim really might have thought. And then we stop dehumanizing or not respecting the life of whoever may be a victim in our own lives, whatever background or anything you may come from. And so it's really crazy how she's making us think and how many different meanings this song can take on, even though it seems like it's so straightforward in some ways and so in your face in some ways, but it's really not. There's a lot of different things that you can glean from this. And like I said, because Aurora is so connected to the natural environment, she has a wonderful song called The Seed that is all about that and protecting nature and where she is from. It has all of this beautiful, stunning nature that she was brought up in. I can't help but think that there's a little element of that maybe in all of her songs, and even in this one, of this idea of we have all these fragile ecosystems around us and humans seem to be kind of destroying them carelessly, but we don't have to. you know, and maybe if we saw things from the victim's perspective, we would be less incentivized to do so. And by we, I mean mostly, you know, the powers that be.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The gun is gone, and so am I, and here I go.
I love that they did not have any instrumental for the last phrase of that song. That is so dramatically effective, and it just kind of almost leaves it open-ended. It's like, what happens to the perpetrator? Does she end up in an afterlife? Like, there's so many places that, like, it leaves it kind of like, it's kind of like this statement of like, think about this. Think about what you just heard, and how can you apply this? How can you respect life more? You know, I can't help but kind of glean a little bit of meaning like that from this song. And another thing that like I really admired about that ending part is whenever she counts down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which is that countdown holds a lot of emotional weight for us because of how we use it in the context of our society. Think about counting down to New Year's Day. Think about counting down before a rocket ship takes off into space. Like, all of these things that we associate with counting down usually carry a lot of emotional weight with them and a lot of significance with them. And so using that as a emotional device in a song of this nature is pretty genius. And what I love about how she sings it is she emphasizes every single number as if she is clinging onto it for dear life. Instead of going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which is more of a legato line, it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's very, every single number is a little bit more emphasized as if it's a staccato or short and separated line. And there's a dramatic effectiveness to that, and it's subtle, and people may not immediately understand that that's why it's affecting them on such a level, but by separating those notes, it's like she's clinging on to every single one for dear life. And that's pretty powerful, considering the fact that the viewpoint of the victim is that the victim's kind of clinging on to the last life they have in this moment. So those are definitely some like strong observations that I had. I also kind of incorporated some of my own opinions about the interpretation of the song, or my own take on it, and some research that I've done. But if you have another idea of the interpretation of this song, oh my gosh, leave it in the comments. I would be so interested to hear how this song affected you emotionally when you first heard it, or even if you were hearing it for the first time by listening to this video. I will link also the original performance, which is very, very, very worthwhile watching uninterrupted as well. And I will also link some of the other articles and forums and things that I used for some of my background research at the beginning of this video. If you enjoyed this video, please don't be afraid to leave recommendations for other music you would like me to do reactions like this to. We're super excited for some of the plans that we have for this channel in the future. Let me know if any of this sounds really good to you guys. I was thinking about doing some music video breakdowns where we actually break down symbolism and literature-based references in music videos done by prominent singers in and out of classical music. I would also love to actually react to more emerging classical artists or people that are more kind of in my stage of the game. Obviously, from a very, very gracious and positive and affirming perspective, I'm not here to come at any other young artists. I have a ton of stuff that I'm working on vocally too, so not about that life. And then the other thing that I just wanted to let you all know is that if you are interested in seeing some of the more performance-based work that my company Opera Cecilia does, I will be including a link to my website in the description of the video, and you can also see the trailer for our inaugural production of Gluck's Orfeo ed Euridice, a modernized version of an opera that was filmed as a feature film at various natural locations in the Pacific Northwest. And it is a very special project that was very close to my heart. It had a really successful virtual premiere, and we'll be entering it into some film festivals soon. So if you're interested in checking that out, tickets are only $5 and you pay for it via PayPal, and then you get access to the link for our show. And it is just this beautiful kind of immersive production, and artists like Aurora were definitely like huge inspirations for the direction that we decided to take that performance. And it was filmed all on iPhones all throughout the summer. It was kind of my summer project. I highly suggest that you check it out, because if you do check it out and you leave a comment, then you might be featured on the Opera Cecilia Instagram. You can follow us on Instagram, by the way. Also, I would just love to hear in some of the comments of these videos if you got the chance to watch the show and what you might have enjoyed about it. So, love you all. Thank you so much for another wonderful, wonderful video recommendation. I had multiple people on my original Aurora video recommend this, so thank you to all of the users who recommended this specific performance, and I hope you enjoyed and got something from this, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye!